everybody, it's Lon.TV, and as you know, I'm a big fan of retro video games. After all, I have a whole shrine behind me here to commemorate that great period of time. And I've been looking around for ways to enjoy the old games on new hardware. And we've tried a whole bunch of different things. We did a lot of looking into the Ouya game console to see if that might be our holy grail for retro gaming. And it sort of is, but not quite all the way there. That's why I was excited this week to see an article on The Verge about a new piece of software for the Mac, a free piece of software called OpenEMU. And here it is. It doesn't look like much on the outset. But what this does is a single interface to run the Game Boy Advance, Game Gear, NeoGeo Pocket, NES, Nintendo DS, the 32X, the Genesis, the Master System, the Super Nintendo, the TurboGrafx, and the Virtual Boy. They are working on additional engines as they go. This is an open source project, so it's using existing emulation software that's out there, and they've made it work consistently and with a solid interface. So there's really no switching software. You can kind of just dump a whole bunch of games into it, and it'll just know what to do with them. So I just have a folder here with a whole bunch of games on, actually just 4 of them actually, but you can load a whole bunch more if you want. We have Ninja Gaiden for the Nintendo, we have Sonic the Hedgehog for the Genesis, Tetris for the Game Boy, and Virtua Fighter for the 32X. And we're going to step through a couple of these. I want to see if how these all run. So we're going to just start off with Tetris here on the Game Boy and just give this a shot. So as you can see, it knew that it was a Game Boy ROM. It just loaded it right up. And the interface is pretty nice. You have a couple of options on the video that you can do. So you can pull down this little menu here and you can kind of emulate different forms of display. I'm not sure what the closest analog to the original Game Boy screen might be. It's certainly not going to be a CRT or anything like that. So, but it's running quite large here, as you can see. But we can step through it here, and we are running Tetris on the Game Boy. It looks like it's kind of doing the Game Boy Color routine to it, although I'm sure we could probably adjust the settings for that. But it works pretty well. What's cool, too, is that it will do a save state, and it works the same throughout. So I can hit Command S on the keyboard here, and that will save my state. And if I were to leave the emulator and come back into it later, it will actually ask me if I want to continue where I left off. So I can just click on here, and it will bring me back exactly where I was. I could also go back to that save state that I had here. So we have a quick save state that just boots me right back to where I was before. I could also save a current state and do a little thing here like winning and come back to that anytime I want. So a lot of neat little features there you didn't have on the original hardware. So that is pretty neat. You can also go full screen with it and get the full retro experience if you want that as well, which is pretty neat. So we will take a look at that and get out of here, and we'll try something else. Now, they do say it works with the 32X, so we'll give that 32X ROM a shot here and see what happens. If it runs this, it's definitely a keeper. So this is one of the harder games in the mix to emulate. And I think I've configured my Super Nintendo controller to work with this, which is a little sacrilegious, but let's see how it does. So here we are. We're loading up one of these guys here, and yeah, sure enough, it seems to work. And this is a 32X emulation. This was a add-on for the Sega Genesis, so it looks like it runs pretty decently. We're on a MacBook Air, and we're going through our video switching hardware here too, so there's some HDMI conversion, yada, yada, yada. But all in, I think it looks fairly nice here. So we're going to leave this particular emulator, and we'll go take a look. Let's see how it does. We know it's running that. We'll just see how the old Sega Genesis works. And sure enough, that is loading up Sonic the Hedgehog for us. And I think that will probably function just fine as well. And you can also resize the window anytime you want. What's cool is you can go in, like I showed you there before with the different filters. You can actually apply an NTSC filter to it, so it looks just like it did on the original TVs that you might have played on it initially, and I think that looks pretty neat. So it does have that scan line look. There's actually 2 different NTSC emulation modes you can have as well here. So we could go to this other particular filter there. It's a little bit blurrier, so if you had a really lousy television when you were a kid, this might make it look like like the good old days again. So some pretty neat stuff there with the filters. And again, this works the same in every emulator, so I think that's really neat. Nearest Neighbor kind of looks the nicest, although some purists might say it isn't quite up to the original, if you will. So that's how that looks. And we'll just pop out of here, and again, it'll come right back to where we left off if we wanted to do that. Then we'll just pop open this Nintendo game here, and there we go. Ninja Gaiden is up and running, and we can play. This is a really hard game, so having the ability to kind of go back in time and continue to play. This game was so tough that it was very unforgiving, and to be able to save your state is really helpful. Now saving your state is nothing new. There's a lot of other emulators that do that. but I just feel like having everything in a consistent interface and a really nice video system, this is just really well done for a multi-platform emulator. It doesn't have a lot of TV-friendly kind of modes, so if you're trying to put it up on your television, you might need to have something nearby to kind of maneuver through the interface. It'd be nice if you could use the game controller to kind of step through some of the interface, but perhaps it does do that. I haven't really poked around with it too much. You can also go full screen with the interface as well in using the Mac OS X full screen mode, so you can do that. It'll also sort it out by games too. So let's go and take a look real quick at the configuration options. So what's nice is that it supports these original controllers. So you can go in and if it finds some things it recognizes automatically and automatically assigns the buttons properly. So in this case I have a retro USB connected through my computer here with a Nintendo controller, and it found that retro USB retro pad. It knew that I have a Nintendo controller installed. Oops, I lost my screen there for a second. And it automatically configured that controller for the game. My Super Nintendo controller is plugged into a USB adapter, so I may want to switch to that. And this one it didn't recognize, but it's very simple to map the buttons on it. You just have to push up here and it'll automatically configure the controller as we go. So let's pull our computer screen back up, and you can see if I hit the left here, it'll do that, and it automatically knows where the right goes. I'm going to hit select, start, A, B, X, Y, L, and R, and now that controller is configured. So pretty much any USB interface will work. HID standard is what it's looking for. If you have a Bluetooth controller, it'll probably work with that as well. And the interface works a lot like iTunes does. So by default, it will copy your ROMs into a common library folder and kind of keep everything organized, neatly put together, which is also a pretty nice feature. It'll work over your local area network. You can go in and just configure the screen to, or the system to look for that library in a certain spot. So we'll go back to our preferences here and go to our library, and we can just change the directory and put it somewhere else. You can put it on a USB stick or something like that and move it back and forth between computers too. So pretty impressive emulator for the Mac. There's another one that I like that's similar to this called Boxer, which is a DOSBox emulator. In fact, it's so easy to use that you can take a CD-ROM and just dump it into this thing and emulate it perfectly as your old DOS games and everything. It's really incredible. So we'll talk about that one at a later time, but for now, that is OpenEMU. I am sure this one will get improved as time goes on. I am really hoping they do some MAME emulation for the arcade. That will make this thing a out-of-the-park hit. I think it's going to be great. So OpenEMU, I believe it can be found at openemu.org. So check it out. It is free, and enjoy it. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.